Welcome to This Week in Jacksonville Business Edition. I'm Kent Justice, your host, and our podcast focuses on economic development in the River City and really throughout the region. So today, this is really cool. Our guest is Kathleen Doherty, Executive Director of MOCA Jacksonville, and I reached out because this year marks the 100th anniversary of this museum. So congratulations.
Thank you. I wasn't here for all of it, but thanks.
Understood. Understood. We can still celebrate, right? I was really interested. I've been reading over your biography. Just give us a kind of an overview of your background and what brought you to this position.
Well, first, thanks for having me with you today. I've been here for 7 years in Jacksonville. As you could probably tell, I'm not from Jacksonville originally.
Most people don't sound like this. This is an extravagant accent. It's wonderful. Not really Southern, but yes.
It's not the most Southern. I grew up in Scotland. We have our home in Ireland. We have our home here, of course, but my babies were born in Ireland, and that's where I began my work. I studied in Scotland, and I was Executive Director of an institution in Ireland before I moved to the Middle East, where I worked for Virginia Commonwealth University, actually, for their School of the Arts, running their exhibition space and their speaker series with contemporary artists from around the world. I then went to Michigan to run the Broad Art Museum as senior curator and then acting director. And then I came to MOCA Jacksonville.
Wow. Okay, so you've got this breadth of experience, which is really interesting.
I went a long way for a shortcut. That's what happened.
So I previously lived in Ohio. You said you were in Michigan. So both of us found out, hey, I can live year-round without snow. It'd be okay, right?
That's true. When I first moved to Michigan, I did wonder whether there was ground underneath that snow because it stayed solid for several months.
Well, I would love to talk specifically about Museum of Contemporary Art here, and we'll talk a little bit later. I know you've got a partnership with the University of North Florida. But maybe just by way of getting into our conversation here, help people understand your mission with the museum.
Well, our mission at the museum, we're a contemporary art museum. That means we focus on artwork predominantly from the 1960s to the present day, or what I say, the art of our time. We focus on art, artists, and ideas. And we do that through exhibitions, programs, all of which we hope, and our collection, all of which we hope contribute to our community and help to build the kind of community that we want, that we all want to live, work, and play in. We see our role downtown as very important, helping to drive the success of downtown, nourish downtown, as well as our broader Jacksonville area.
Yeah, I loved, when I was doing my research here for our segment, I loved just reading this. The mission, bringing education, creativity, and community to the heart of downtown Jacksonville.
That's exactly right.
So how do you do that? How do you accomplish that mission?
Well, we do it in a number of ways, and this centenary year, we're really elevating so many of those ways. Right when we were established 100 years ago, extraordinary women said they wanted to create the kind of community that they wanted to live in. And they said they would do that through art. And they brought the artists, leading artists of the time, to Jacksonville, and they fundraised through those exhibitions for public school education. So community building, education, and art. Those very same things that remain a center to our core 100 years ago.
That was the foundation 100 years ago.
That was the foundation 100 years ago. And think how visionary that was for those women of that time.
It's a great idea for any era.
And a long time before those women even had the vote. You know, we put it into perspective, they were changing the social landscape. And that's really important because I think that museums have a special role and art has a special role in contributing and reflecting to the community that we serve. I always say that art is a lens that we can use to look at the world around us. So when we look back to ancient times, we always turn to artists, to artwork, to understand that moment, that time and place. But for some reason, we don't always afford ourselves that same lens when we're trying to understand the world we live in. And I feel that museums can provide that lens. It allows us to take time out from our everyday, the hustle and bustle, to look at the world around us, think about the ideas that are prompted, and maybe go back into the world with a wee bit of a different view than we had previous.
Wow. So Museum of Contemporary Art, you said that's 1960 and forward.
Roughly. We don't worry about the dates, but roughly.
Yeah. What level of interest has been seen in these 7 years that you've been executive director or here at the museum? And what do you anticipate, since it's this centennial, this 100th anniversary that you get to celebrate this year?
Well, this year we really said, you know, for a centennial year, what is expected? A big party. And we're going to have one. We're going to have a fabulous one. We'll have a few, but our very big one is April 6th, our centennial gala. So that is going to be terrific. But we also said it should be more than that. If we believe in our mission, we really need to use this year to elevate the kind of programs and exhibitions that we're doing, to look to the past, to recognize those people and moments that have got us here, celebrate this moment through these exhibitions, elevated parties, events, and then look to the future. So in other words, elevate everything so that we chart the course for where we want to go from here. And to me, that's a really important role of our museum, not just to celebrate our own birthday party, but rather to contribute to the kind of community we all want to see, and we all want to live in, and we all want to be part of. Exactly what those women were saying and doing 100 years ago. We're trying to do the same from this point onwards in downtown Jacksonville.
So I was reading through some of the information on your webpage there. So I didn't know this. Museum of Contemporary Art Jacksonville, as you're celebrating that 100th anniversary, the oldest art museum in the region,
exactly right.
Second to be established in the United States? Second?
That's right.
Really?
Second, focused on modern and contemporary art. Second only to the Phillips Collection in DC. So we're in extraordinarily good company. And again, think about that. Jacksonville, 100 years ago, women were driving modernism in this city. It's the bold city of the South. Right. And it really was right there 100 years ago. How wonderful.
Yeah, so that's really, really interesting. I didn't read deep enough to get that perspective of it was women leading that charge and the connection to public
education. And who themselves were artists, who thought like artists, who used that lens of artists, of their artwork to understand the world around them.
Yeah. So often artists are kind of put in a category, though. Oh, they're, you know, it's eclectic, they're not organized, you know, they're creatives. That was certainly not the case for these women who established this 100 years ago.
But also, maybe lack of organization just means creative problem solving. It's just semantics at some point. And we all need to use different lenses, different modes in order to fully understand and think about the world that we're in.
That is so cool. So we talked a little bit about how you accomplish the mission, and I loved what I read for you. I love the way it's articulated. What's the impact on Northeast Florida and the region, specifically your museum, and then let's talk broader on museums in general, art in a community and how that affects the region? Yeah,
well, so, you know, we talk about, we often don't talk about art in terms of business. You know, people tend to shy away from that. Like you said a moment ago, it's a creative thing. Right. It's, you know, it's visionary, but what about business language? And so often those words are not put together. Just because a museum is a nonprofit does not mean that it is not a vital contributor. In fact, you could argue one of the most vital contributors as a nonprofit organization to the communities that they serve, because there is that sense of service.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask. What is that contribution, or how would you
I mean, economically, just starting there. MOCA's contribution to our local area is $6.6 million annually. Okay. That is a not insignificant figure. Right. You roll that over to Northeast Florida and arts and cultural organizations across the board, you're looking at over $2.5 billion. That is a very vital sector. And that is a sector that when you look at other regions, you can see there's space for growth. So immediately the opportunity for cultural tourism, for those dollars to be really pumping through our city, through our region, that in itself is very important. We often don't talk about that. Then we think about the kind of partners that we work with. Last year alone, 70 different community partners, over 100 professional artists. 80% of the people that come to MOCA come either free of charge or come with reduced entry. And that can be anything from collaborating with corporations, such as ViStar Free Wednesdays, Free Saturdays, ViStar Free Saturdays, Florida Blue Museum Nights, the first and third Wednesday, or CSX summer program for free entry for military families. So these are corporate bodies, organizations who are supporting, providing art and culture to our community by removing the barrier of the economic barrier. You know, so there really is an economic value, an argument when it comes to art and culture. On top of that, of course, there's a philosophical one. We know over and over and over again, every report you wish to look at that talks about urban regeneration, and this is going back from when different things were called different things. So, you know, be it creative placemaking we're talking about now. A decade ago, it was urban regeneration. It's the same reality. It's about art and culture being a vehicle to help drive social and economic change and progress. And so we really see ourselves playing a vital role in that regard. Examples I would give you. In the heart of downtown right now, we have a brand new work by Frank Stella. He is the foremost contemporary living American sculptor. And he created, specially for MOCA's 100-year anniversary, a 30-foot, almost 5-ton extravaganza of a sculpture which is filling our entire atrium space. And it's called Jacksonville Stacked Stars. It's literally looking to the heavens and dreaming about the next 100 years to come.
Wow.
And that is the foremost sculptor working today in America, recognizing MOCA, recognizing Jacksonville, and creating this wonderful piece. What does that do? It drives people to downtown Jacksonville. And the Tourist Development Council recently recognized that by providing their first ever cultural tourism grant to help support MOCA during this 100-year anniversary.
Well, so on the philosophical side, so we're talking dollars and cents, the impact there. Tourism, you know, because people would come, oh, I want to see this art that was created for MOCA. Beyond that, there's something, a matter of pride in your community when you have great art. Is that right? That's
right. And you look at urban centers, you look at great urban centers, invariably they have strong cultural institutions. They have strong educational centers. They have a vibrant residential downtown. That's where you start to see these core contributors that all lead to creating the kind of places we want to be. That's why we're very proud being part of the University of North Florida, providing that footprint in downtown Jacksonville for the University of North Florida. It's very important.
Yeah, I certainly wanted to get to that. Tell me more about that partnership. What does that look like? Is it student artists contributing or working there or intern? What does it look like? So
in 2009, we became a Cultural Institute of UNF. We are part of UNF and a very proud part of UNF. We have our educational core right dating back 100 years. So it's almost come full circle and makes even more sense now that we are part of this university. What does it mean? It means all sorts of things. It means we link gown to town, campus to community, philosophically and tangibly. Students come downtown. 10,000 a year perhaps between programs, classes, events. What comes with students is a vibrancy, is a curiosity, is a desire to learn, and is a desire to contribute. And if each of those students who come downtown become familiar with downtown through MOCA, they start to see Jacksonville as a place beyond their campus community that they want to stay. So you have this brain not drain, but bring, keep to Jacksonville. This resource is fed, and that's hugely important. We also offer, with that same idea in mind, internship opportunities. And that can be from everything from communications, filming, photography, writing, right through to curatorial, front of house. We have our ambassadors program, paid student opportunities, real life experience, because for every one of those students that graduate, they have something that sets them apart from everyone else that's graduated. And that's either a research fellowship in a museum, or leadership skills, or paid internships. Suddenly they become employable, more employable by virtue of their connection to the real world through MOCA.
It's fascinating to me. What would you say about this? So MOCA is one of the museums in the downtown area, whether on the South Bank or downtown, or now moving over toward the shipyards. Mosh has announced that they're moving across the river and what have you. We've seen these exhibits come in, Van Gogh and King Tut and Monet now. Is there competition? Hey, I need to preserve people who are coming to my place? Or is there some collaboration to say, we want everybody to know there are these various artistic, creative experiences you can have by coming to Jacksonville?
So I describe it, it's a cultural fabric. And we want it to be beautifully patterned. You know, we need every piece of that pattern to make sense of the overall. And we need the Comer to be doing well. We need the Mosh to be doing well. We need the Ritz to be doing well. Yeah, the Florida Theater, the Symphony, all these people that we collaborate with, we connect with, and that we champion. We need to be championing each other. We cannot be insular. We need to be open. We need to be collaborative, and we need to be looking at the bigger picture, which is for everyone's benefit here in Jacksonville.
You know, I think back to the Washington D.C. idea. So on the mall, the National Mall, right, here are these Smithsonian, there are different museums all over. So if you're traveling to that area, you know, oh, I'll go there, and then I've got a variety of options to pique my interest when it comes to museums.
That's right. That's right. And you know, we have reciprocal memberships, and we often collaborate on different things. Just the other day during Women's History Month, we had a discussion group, and with different people from across different organizations coming together to talk about lifting Jacksonville up as a whole. And that's what we need to do, and that's what we celebrate together, and we try to partner wherever possible.
Yeah. Kathleen Doherty, I'll tell you what, that is part of the mission of this podcast as well, is to talk about what's happening and what is growing and developing here, because I think all of us who love the city and love the region want to see that kind of growth in stature and the other things that go along with that. Thank you so much for spending the time. Happy birthday to MOCA Jacksonville. Yeah, and we appreciate your time today.
Thank you so very much for having me.
And so that's this episode, but I'll tell you what, This Week in Jacksonville Business Edition comes out every Thursday at 9 a.m. and you'll find it on our streaming service, News4Jax Plus. You'll also find it online and anywhere you get your podcasts. Thanks for joining us.